I'm Bill Allmart. I'm the DuPage Symphony Concertmaster, and I wanted to begin this video by offering you and your loved ones wishes for health and safety during these very challenging times. I've been working on a few things. I've been growing my hair. I have also been practicing a good deal, and that's for two reasons. The first is I'm looking forward to the day in the hopefully not too distant future when we will be able to be together again and share some wonderful music. I've also been practicing because the violin is just very difficult. It's very hard to play. This is the violin that I get to play. It's from France, the south of France. It was made in 1852. It's quite lovely, and it's in very good shape for something so old. Something I could say about some other people I know. The bow is from about the same period, but made in the north of France. So they are two very wonderful tools that I get to use during a brief portion of their life in order to try to make music. Now, you've probably heard it said that the violin is the closest instrument to the human voice. And one of the things that means is that it has a wide array of expressive possibilities. And so I've been working with an understanding, to improve my understanding of some of those possibilities and how to apply them to music. So here's what a plain, unadorned, open string sounds like on the violin. It's a nice resonant sound. It's a bit uninteresting all by itself. One of the most common methods that players use to alter the sound or warm up the sound is something called vibrato. It's where you oscillate the tip of your finger a little bit below the pitch and then back to the pitch. So here's what a note sounds like with vibrato. If you want a more intense sound, you can speed up the vibrato a little bit or slow it down. You can vary how you use the bow. If you put it closer to the bridge and put some more weight on it, you can get quite an intense and loud sound. If you move it farther away from the bridge and maybe lighten up the pressure a little bit, you get a sound like this. A little more air in the sound, a little breathier, a little sweeter perhaps. So there's a number of things to be done with the bow and the strings and all of the variations of where you put the bow and how you lean the bow that actually all have musical effects, and the listener is often aware of them more on a subconscious level than on a conscious one. Now, how to apply some of this to music? I wanted to use the beginning of one of the pieces written by Johann Sebastian Bach for solo violin in about 1720, or at least that's the date on the cover of the manuscript. He wrote 6 sonatas and partitas for solo violin. They're an enormous gift to violin players because you get to play complete music with just one instrument. And because they are difficult and very deep, there's a lot going on in this music, they represent kind of an endless resource for learning and improvement. There's some indication that Bach and his children actually used them as exercises later on. But there is a backstory, or at least there is speculated to be a backstory, which is this. In 1720, Bach returned from a 2-month-long business trip with his royal patron, and he discovered that his wife, Maria Barbara, with whom he had been married for 13 years and with whom he had had 7 children, had died suddenly and was buried. So he came home to find a house with 7 children alone, and the partner in his life gone. It's hard to imagine what that must have felt like. And so I have often thought that these solo violin works were one of the ways he might have used to work through his feelings and his grief about these events. The D minor one, the first few notes of which I'm going to use for our purposes today, have often seemed, to me at least, to be one of the most emotionally intense works. So here's what the first few notes sound like. They're from the first movement, which is entitled Allmart, which is a courtly dance, or a German courtly dance. And they sound sort of like this. So how do you make those notes come alive, and how do you make them convey a message? People have taken different approaches. When I was growing up, the great violinists played them a little bit like this. And one of them, Heifetz, played them even faster than that, almost with ferocity. It's always been hard for me to understand those as courtly dances, however. Think of the wigs, think of the gowns, think of the platform shoes and the high heels. So I tend to think of them as a little bit slower in tempo. More modern, more contemporary research suggests that there was another way to play these with less vibrato and a little lighter touch. So some contemporary recordings will sound a little bit like this. Or in a really more contemplative note, you might hear. It's hard not to go on. So there are lots of ways to play this music. There are lots of stories that can be told with it, but it depends on some of the most basic, almost mechanical variables that a violinist chooses to apply, and decisions that they make about musicianship. Is it bow speed? Is it pressure? Is it contact point, it's called, in this zone of the violin? How much vibrato? How loud? How soft? How much spacing between the notes? So there's a lot to learn here. I hope this has been of some interest to you. Thank you very much.